Your Jacksonville Jaguars have a new defensive coordinator, and listening to him, I want to go out here and run through a brick wall. I'll tell you about that and how it affects free agency. This edition of Locked On Jaguar.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. Glad to have you join us today. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where you can find wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch them or listen to them. Make sure you tap into that location each and every day to ensure you do not miss the show. Exactly right. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. It's also time for me to get into it and let y'all know what's going on today. All right, shout out to the everydayers. Thank you for joining us. If it's your first time, I hope it is not your last. Here's what we're going to talk about today: possible free agency additions. Now that we can actually get into that, because we can at least understand and know who the DC is, and that lets us know his past relationships, guys that want to play for him. You already got former players from 2 stops ago, Trayvon Holland saying on social media that he's one of the best in the business. So we'll be able to look at that. Alignment, we talk about alignment, how they're going to line up. He's done it in 3-4 and 4-3. I'm going to play a video from Locked On Packers and Locked On Sports Today host Peter Bukowski, one of the best in the business, and he's going to explain to you why I wouldn't get too caught up in the alignment part of it, because this dude is incredibly versatile. Finally, and first and foremost, new DC Anthony Campanile, what we know. All right, I'll tell you exactly what we know here. He can make you run through a brick wall with his words, man. The dude was a high school coach over 2 decades ago, or close to 2 decades ago, at one of the best schools in the country. Kept getting elevated, kept moving up, ended up at Rutgers. And after being at Rutgers, it had stops at Boston College, had stops at Michigan, and it's been in the NFL now. It varies, and I like the fact that he has held various positions. I like the fact that he has been just about everything. I'm going to read some of these job descriptions for you. Okay, linebackers coach in New Jersey in 2006. And then he was at Don Bosco Prep, like I said, easily one of the 7 or 8 top teams year after year in the country. He was the defensive coordinator. Then he went to the offensive coordinator. Y'all hear what I just said? Offensive coordinator. Then he went to Rutgers as a defensive assistant. Then at Rutgers, he was the tight ends coach. And then at Rutgers, he was the wide receivers coach. And then he went to Boston College as the defensive backs coach. Then he was the co-defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach at Boston College. And then he went to Michigan as the linebackers coach. And after being at Michigan as the linebackers coach, he went to the Miami Dolphins for 3 years as the linebackers coach. And then he went to Green Bay as the linebackers coach and run game coordinator. And now he is your defensive coordinator here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that tells me that he's just a good football coach, and that he has been in different spots and at different positions that probably gives him the ability to stretch perspectives and come up with his philosophy and his idea of how things should go based on him knowing how things go at other positions. I think this bodes well when you talk about a guy who can coach up a defense and make it complementary to the offense. You hear all of these coaches talking about being in one alignment and complementary football and how it has to work. Well, he has a broad understanding, and many coaches do, even if they don't have this on their resume. But he has a really, really broad understanding because of how many things that he's done and how many things that he's been responsible for. And I think it's a welcome addition. I think he has the respect of a lot of people, as we already saw. Trayvon Holland, a safety for the Dolphins, who happens to be a free agent, who played his best while Campanile was the linebackers coach. Now, Holland had a little bit of a rough year last year, the year Campanile wasn't there. So whatever you want to take from that, I want you to listen to my friend Peter Bukowski, though. Peter, like I said, is Locked On Packers. All right. And this is how people act when coaches leave their team and go somewhere else. They don't act like petulant children. Shout out to the people in Hillsborough County this morning. This is the host and granted, James Yarko, I haven't talked to James Yarko, who runs Locked on Tampa, so I'm not criticizing him, but there are people, members of the media down there, that really act crazy about Liam Cohen taking a job. Listen to how Peter Bukowski describes him and what he says to Jaguar fans and what he says about his own team and how they feel about losing Anthony. By the way, I love his first name, Anthony Campanile.
Jacksonville Jaguar fans should be excited about Anthony Campanile. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked on Packers, and I think this is a great move for a young team with a young head coach, bringing in a young linebackers coach, because Campanile comes from the Dolphins, where he was a survivor. I love this. When you have a certain type of coach, you bring in a new coach and you survive. Brian Flores, Vic Fangio. Those are two very different systems. And then you come over to Green Bay, where Jeff Hafley is running something else still. Vic Fangio, you want to run quarters and two deep and have your stunts underneath. Jeff Hafley was brought to Green Bay to run three deep, four under. It was supposed to be that old Jaguars, that Robert Saleh Jaguar stuff, that Gus Bradley Jaguar stuff, but they couldn't rush with four. Wasn't good enough. So what did they have to do? They had to totally change the way the linebackers played. They started running simulated pressures, where all of a sudden you've got to feint that blitz and you've got to haul ass back into the middle of the field. You got to get into that hook zone. You got to get underneath crossers. Quay Walker in Green Bay had been one of the worst starters graded by Pro Football Focus. When drafted in 2022, and in 2022 and 2023, just not a good football player. By NFL standards, right? All these players are good. This past season, he played his best football with a new linebackers coach, who's now the Jaguars' new defensive coordinator. Edgerrin Cooper, get this, guys. Rookie out of Texas A&M, SEC country. You probably saw him play. You probably saw him chase down Jalen Milroe in the backfield, which no one does. Milroe's going to run 4 threes. Edgerrin Cooper had 13 tackles for loss. He had more tackles for loss in 14 games and less than 600 snaps than Jared Verse, the defensive rookie of the year. Top 10 in pressures, Jared Verse. Edgerrin Cooper had more tackles for loss. Edgerrin Cooper had 13 tackles for loss in this century. 22 rookies have had 13 tackles for loss. Only Camarion Wimbley has not gone on to have a Pro Bowl career. That is how good a sign it is that Edgerrin Cooper was this good as a rookie. His linebackers coach has to get some of that credit, right? I think he should get a lot of that credit. And he's walking out the door. It's a big loss for the Green Bay Packers. And I'm excited to see what he does in Jacksonville. Enjoy it.
That's my man, Peter Bukowski, man. Listen, I'm thrilled. I am absolutely excited. Thank you, Peter, for doing that. The Jaguar fans ought to be excited. See, that's how teams that coaches leave should address these things. They should be happy for those coaches. But you all should be happy too, because you just heard about the versatility. Not only the versatility, the ability to switch up, the ability to figure it out. You also heard the ability to extract the best out of those players. And if you're a guy like Devin Lloyd, you ought to be ecstatic to see him coming. And so the Jaguars can finally tap into that potential, especially since Lloyd, this is the last year of his contract, right? He goes out here and shows off. You might see him around October or November getting an extension because this coach was able to pull the best out of him. I'll be interested to see how they fill out the rest of the staff, how they do it to complement Anthony Campanile, as I'll learn how to say his name correctly, is Neely, okay? Campanile. But it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun for him to come in here with his energy his enthusiasm. I think those guys want to play for someone like this. Like I said, you already got guys, and we're going to get into this right now. You already, well, at least in segment 3, you already got people out here talking about they want to play for him and that he's the best, and stuff like that is what really, really, really makes me believe this is a very, very good decision. I like the energy of the Jaguars staff so far. I like how it's player centric, but it's also, it doesn't lack accountability. You can be a player's coach, but still hold guys like Pete Carroll. You can still, and this is what this reminds me of. I ain't gonna lie to you. This reminds me sort of personality wise of the Pete Carroll, of the McVays. I think there's going to be a real different energy with this team. Now, whether it leads to victory, we don't know, but at least we can start somewhere. I'm going to start with what I expect the alignment would be in the draft. I got to get into this with y'all, man, because y'all killing me. All right, we'll talk about it and more in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I remember the excitement and energy of a playoff game I attended years and years ago, and I'm looking forward to making new memories this season. There's one more game to go, man, and it ain't too late for you to get your ticket because Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting those tickets even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste all that time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, this works for not more than just football tickets, basketball tickets, baseball tickets, theater, monster trucks, comedy shows, whatever, all right? Make sure you head on over to Game Time and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? It is game time. All right, moving along here on a Friday, Locked On NFL. I'm the host, Tony Wiggins of the Locked On NFL podcast. And the news of the day is the Jaguars have named defensive coordinator, their new defensive coordinator, to be Anthony Campanile. We've gone through his resume earlier. So far, so good in terms of me reaching out to people that have worked with him and that know him. I'll try to get with Kyle Krabs and try to get something for you guys. Kyle Krabs he works for 33rd Team. He's like the NFL draft expert. And he also is the host of Locked On Dolphins and Locked On NFL Scouting. He does a really good job across a lot of different platforms. But I tell you what, I am super thrilled so far to hear the things that I've heard about Coach Campanile. Looking forward to hearing him, obviously, at the introductory press conference, if they do that, and hear him talk about his philosophies. But right now, we're going to speculate a little bit. Like Peter Bukowski just said, he was brought in to run the Robert Saleh version of the old 4-3 with the 4I and the 4B and the 9 wide guy on the other side, and trimming it down to a 4-2-5. Possibly a single high safety the way Gus Bradley, and then another box safety. And then he goes up to the Green Bay and they couldn't rush it with 4 and they had to figure it out. And he was a part of that. Now he was up there with Jeff Hadley, who was the coach at Boston College, the head coach when he was there. So it's all about familiarity, of course. It's all about alignment once again, but it's also about how you want to play and how you're going to implement your defense and how you're going to adjust and change. The first person I think outside of Devin Lloyd that will benefit from the way they're going to play defense and his impact is Trayvon Walker. I believe he is going to look at Trey. If you ever talk to Trayvon Walker, you will understand the discipline, the attitude, the go-get. This person is Trayvon can play for anybody. But I'm telling you, he is going to respond to this stuff right here. They're going to put him in a position to be a game wrecker that's going to be more visible probably to the naked eye than it usually is. I can tell you what, I don't think you're going to see people being switched out of the game 3 and 4 plays into the game and wait until a team drives down the field and all of that. Ain't nobody going to be waiting trying to preserve people to the end of the game. No, we're going to run you until you're tired. And then when you need a blow, that's when we'll go next man up. And you all right? And then look back over there and say, you ready? I get back in there. This is about putting your best foot forward and getting guys on the field that can really, really help this team. Now, what do I think can possibly happen with alignment as we get into the draft? We'll do free agency next. Now I'm flip-flopping this. I'm breaking one of my own rules. Normally, if I talk about these on the same day, I'll talk about free agency first and then the draft. But I'm not really trying to line this up to, okay, well, this is what you need to do and this is what you need to do. I'm just going to give you the possibilities for both of them. The first thing is in the draft because it's what people keep bringing up to me. And the name everybody keeps mentioning, of course, is Abdul Carter. I love the kid. The kid is outstanding. I'm telling you, I'm crazy about Abdul Carter, right? What I really, really need is for them to, if you're going to do that, I want you to know I need Abdul Carter, Trayvon Walker, and Josh Allen on the field at the same time. The part of this equation that I dislike a lot is folks just being so willy-nilly about just moving Trayvon in and putting his hand on the ground all the time in an odd front. And it comes across as people still thinking he's not a very good defensive end, and that's just not true. And that's why I push back on anybody that does that, because that's a bit of a luxury, in my opinion. Instead of just saying they got two good edges and maybe they need to figure out how to get more pressure from the inside, they sit here and they just, well, Trayvon's better on the inside, get another pass rusher. It's almost as like you're being dismissive while half-heartedly admitting that the kid can play. And that's the part that I give pushback, especially since this is not like, okay, the Philadelphia Eagles didn't necessarily need Jalen Carter. They just happened to have gotten a draft pick from somebody and they ended up 10th. And then everybody else, because of Jalen Carter and whatever happened between the combine and him speeding on campus at Georgia or whatever, just started believing all of these rumors that maybe he wasn't a great kid and all that. And now everybody's regretting it. So this isn't that situation. If this is that situation, I say, yeah, get Abdul Carter. Why not? He's the best player in the draft. If he's sitting there at number 5, take him. But the Jaguars aren't the Eagles. The Jaguars don't have offensive linemen, Hall of Fame offensive linemen, and then when those guys retire, they just plug. They don't have that. The Jaguars don't have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They got Brian Thomas Jr., but they don't have the complement. They don't have a Dallas Goedert. You know, they don't have those other players on that team. That's not what this is. This isn't like, oh man, this is just a luxury. Just take him and we'll figure it out. No, they have other holes on this team. Other holes. So if you're going to draft a dude, if he's the next Lawrence Taylor, take him and then figure it out. I get it. But I just don't like the fact that everybody always keep trying to just move Trayvon. By the way, Eric Armstead ain't getting cut. He makes a lot of money. You cut him, it's going to be $18 million, not in dead cap space. It is going to be $18 million in real cap space. Meaning, if you cut him right away, you go from having $35 million in cap space to 17. That's not the same as dead cap. Okay. So yeah, that's an ugly situation. And he's already said he's going back inside. Considering the fact that anybody over there who told him that is gone, all the coaches and the GM, I don't know if he should be saying that, because if Cohen and Hatley didn't say it, not Hatley, Cohen and Campanile didn't say it, how do you know where you're going to play? You don't know what you're going to be doing. You know, but the thing is that, okay, you move Trayvon inside. Now you got this expensive dude over there on the pine, right? He's supposed to be your 3 technique. Or if you try to move him to 5, to a 5 technique, and you use Trayvon sort of as a hybrid 3 technique, and then you have a nose guard like Devon Hamilton, how have you gotten better at stopping the run when you had all of those dudes last year and you couldn't stop it? If it's just scheme, you believe if it's just scheme, okay, I'll ride with you. But then you got to look at the other holes on the team. There are people that want Mason Graham. Why do y'all want Mason Graham? Because you don't think the team can stop the run with the way that they're already, and they're not getting pressure up the middle. So you're just going to ignore that need and just go draft Abdul Carter and say, figure it out, which we've seen teams do before. What about the offensive line everybody keeps talking about? You know, it's a good draft for some guys in the offensive line. Maybe not at 5, but move back. What about the other wide receiver you want to go on the other side? What about the corner everybody knows that you need? So this is why I'm trying to get people to get off of this one track thinking like we got to get Abdul Carter. We got to get Abdul Carter. There's more than one way to do this. Besides, I don't think Abdul's going to be there anyway. I think he's gone in the first 3 picks. But I'm going to tell you about some possible free agents in segment 3. Here's the other thing. I don't care how they line up. I really don't care. As long as they don't line up in a way that makes them deficient and small in some areas. I'm personally in favor of leaving Trayvon Walker right where he is. Y'all gonna think I'm crazy. We're leaving him right where he is, man. And leaving Josh Allen over there. I would probably either address the edge, the third edge, because you can never have too much pass rush. I do believe that. I don't think you can have too much pass rush. It's impossible. If you keeping 4 defensive ends, it's good that all of them can rush the passer. But that doesn't mean just keep going pass rusher, pass rusher, pass rusher, pass rusher. It just doesn't mean that you can help that pass rush and you could help pressure. One of them is schematics. One of them is teaching better, coaching better. You can do all of that stuff. There's just a way that you can figure it out and get it done. Winning on first down and making second down a long down and distance situation also goes a long way. And that's how you do that. Sometimes you have to get guys who can play the run a little bit better. All right, free agent possibilities. We're going to go through it here. Y'all won. I'm going to do it now in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, man. It's one more game left. I know, but you don't have to play football with Prize Picks, man. But the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions in winnings. Awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on any of the player projections. You get 2 or more of them right, and you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes, he only needs to throw for 1 yard to win. You already got it, man. You know he's going to do that. So just pair that one with something else, and then you're cashing out. Check out all the promo tabs to tail any of the Super Bowl Sweet Millie winners, big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. I ain't joking. Download the app today and use Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL for $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, third final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day here on a Friday. One more week before the big game. We decide who is going to be champions. Now, I know the Jaguar fan base can't wait till the day that we get to talk about possibly playing in these games. And I think the Jaguars got a little bit closer, first with the hiring of Liam Cohen, and then Liam Cohen turning around and doing something and making a great hire in Anthony Campanile. Now, since I started the show, I actually just got another text from my friend Peter Bukowski. It's being reported that Campanile turned down the defensive coordinator job for Penn State, and he was the 49ers' second choice behind Robert Saleh. So possibly the most coveted defensive coordinator candidate in the cycle, and the Jacksonville Jaguars got him. Everybody thinks that this is a home run, right? Even former players that have played under Campanile. So here's what I want you to do. As they continue to assemble the staff and you start looking at the free agency list, I don't want you to just look at former Packers. I want you to look at former Dolphins, because Campanile coached with the Dolphins, right? I want you to look at guys he coached at Michigan that are now in the NFL and start thinking about those relationships. I want you to look at the people that they go out and hire to be the position coaches, where they come from, because now we're talking about alignment. We're talking about everybody being the same type of guy. We're having an understanding, especially after the rumors of last year. And I confirmed that they weren't rumors, that those dudes just did not like Ryan Nielsen. I think they liked the guys the year before, and they tried to give Nielsen a chance. But Nielsen, I think Nielsen had a little bit of an attitude like this, like when you know how you ever seen people, and being a barber, I saw this all the time. I had guys come in and telling me their business and they needed some counseling, right? They talk about their relationships. And then in everything that they tell you about their relationship, about the other person, and then all of a sudden they reconcile and everything's good. And then they let you meet that person. Well, you have to be a pretty good judge of people. I think I am most of the time, to ignore all of those bad things that they told you in the first place, because I'm always believing there's three sides to every story: your side, the other side, and the side that neither one of y'all are saying. But I think Ryan Nielsen came in, and this is the thing I was talking about when I used the analogy about trying to fix somebody else's chili after they've been screwing it up for 2 hours. I think he came in with his attitude that all of this stuff was wrong and he'd been told this about certain people, and he treated those guys like what he heard. That's just my guess, because with the people that I found out that did not care for him very much, it's not even in their character to be malcontents. It's not even in their character to be the type of people that would be like derelict in their duty and not pay attention to authority. And so I just think that whatever somebody told him led him to act a certain way. And this is why I like this new start. This is why I like the whole new start, where everybody's going to get a new shot. And but I do think it's important. Javon Holland has already tweeted or said somewhere on social media that he's the best in the business. So look for him. Look for him in the free agency. Look for other guys that play with their feet on fire. There's a kid, Hufanga, the kid out at the 49ers. If he can stay healthy, he's another safety. I wouldn't just assume that Darnell Savage is going to get cut, but I also wouldn't assume that this kid feels like he's going to be married to Darnell Savage. Because people are saying, how you going to go get two safeties, man? They got Darnell Savage. So what does that mean? I don't think his cap number is so high that we can't move on. I don't think they're going to make any decisions. I do think some consideration with Gabe Davis and some consideration with Eric Armstead have to be had because of what it means to let those guys go. You haven't gotten any production from them. You gave them a bunch of money. And then if you let them leave, they're going to leave with a bunch of money they ain't done nothing to earn yet. So those things. But I figured out a way the Jaguars can get down to get over 70 million in cap space with certain people if they restructure, starting with Christian Kirk. They don't get hardly anything for restructuring either Armstead or Gabe Davis. So that's why I'm not including them. Devon Hamilton can work something out. Evan Ingram can help work something out for the team. They can let a few guys go. I'm not going to go cutting people and put them out of work. But, like Devin Duvernay, they can look and say, nah, they ain't work after 1 year. But one thing I don't want them to do, is to be, and a lot of the fans are this way, man. They got that Stockholm issue. I'm not believing anything. I had to tell one dude, my boy Mike, this morning, I said, Mike, he's gone, man. You can go ahead and start believing that there's hope when you go shopping these days, right? I'm ready and willing to see what they do. Obviously, the offensive line is going to be a priority. I like Drew Dahlman, the center up with Atlanta. I like Freeze, the guard, Will Freeze, the guard with the Colts. I like Brad Bredesen, the other guard with Tampa. Now, those three guys I just mentioned, they have a strength, and that's run blocking. Liam Cohen said they're going to run the ball. All three of those dudes' strength is run blocking. I like Mekhi Becton, strength, run blocking. This offensive line is going to get fixed. I look for them to get two guys in free agency and then draft another two guys. And speaking of the draft, I think they can move back. Not too far back, but move back and get more picks. I believe whoever they hire and it's going to be right in line with the energy that these guys have. And I think they're going to do better in the draft. So I always talk about the Brian Thomas Jr. chance that Trent Baalke took, right? He went from 17 to 23. He got pick 167, which they used on Keelan Robinson. Wasn't necessarily worth the risk. But the third and fourth round pick they have this year, that's pick number 88 and pick number 125, the extra 3 and a 4. If Baalke was picking, I'd be like, it wasn't worth it. With somebody else, it might be, because those are the picks that you can use to partner up with another pick. What if they took those two and pick 40, traded back up into the late in the first round and got another key player that could help. All you got to do, if you don't think rookies can help these days, go look at the Super Bowl. Look at the Super Bowl on both sides of the ball, rookies, and then look at the playoffs. Rookies were all over the place making plays. And now that the Jaguars have somebody better at picking, I think this is going to be a destination spot for free agents. And I think it's going to be a good spot for guys who are already here to get the best extracted out of them. And it's also going to be a place where guys that get drafted can come in and make an immediate impact. Tampa got the receiver, McMillan, right? So he was like the third best receiver from the University of Washington. He's already their number 2, and that might mean they got room for Chris Godwin to go ahead and go into free agency, which is another player the Jaguars can go after. But you got to be able to do it both ways. You got to be able to do it free agency. You got to be able to do it in the draft. But it starts with the head, and so far I'm happy with Liam Cohen, and I'm happy with Anthony Campanile. All right, listen up. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL. Two shows a day. Tyler rolling early in the morning and me sliding through in the afternoon, giving you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories. All right, man, y'all have a nice weekend. Enjoy this beautiful weather out here. I'm so glad to be home. I love Mobile. Mobile's a nice place, but man, I'm glad. I love Jacksonville. You guys take care. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.